Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our webinar explaining how to use Ranked Choice RCV 123, a brand new app that lets you conduct ranked choice voting elections in your everyday life. My name is Carrie. I am our organizing director here at Fair Vote Washington, and we're very excited to have you here tonight. Just a couple reminders of how tonight will go. We are going to first chat again about the benefits of using ranked choice voting in your daily life and the upgrades you may see as you bring it to your boardroom, your book club, your family vacation decisions, how to use the tool RCV123, and some questions. But before we get too far into it, I want to thank David Bangs and Shel Kaplan, the creators of Ranked Choice Voting 123, RCV123, and we'll go from there. So now I want to pass it over to Elise.
Thanks, Carrie. And like Carrie said, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. If you don't know me, I'm Elise Orlick. I'm the Executive Director of Fair Vote Washington. So we will be covering, as Carrie shared, why you as advocates for ranked choice voting should think about its uses in your daily life. And by the way, Carrie, are you able to share our PowerPoint now?
I sure am.
Thank you.
Of course.
So we'll start by going over those benefits. We'll brainstorm some different groups and decisions that you might be a part of and that could benefit from ranked choice voting. Talk a little bit about the process we recommend to introduce this idea to your group. Then we will get into the nuts and bolts of how to use this tool, rcv123.org, to actually run an election. And then we have some resources to support you as needed, and we will close off with a Q&A. All right, let's go forward 2 slides. So, as advocates for ranked choice voting, we talk a lot about its benefits in the political arena. And some of you may be wondering, why are we stepping back from that tonight and talking about your book clubs and your family vacations? And there's a lot of reasons. One is we're the people who feel so strongly about ranked choice voting. We spend all of our time telling other people why they should believe in it. I think we deserve to start to see the benefits of better decisions and better decision-making processes ourselves. And the first way to do that is to find, while we're still waiting and working to choose our elected officials using RCV, we should just go ahead and find other decisions in our lives that can be run using this process. In the meantime, you get the side benefit of familiarizing people in your life with this idea that you probably tell them about all the time. One of the best forms of voter education, especially around elections, is for people to get experience ranking on their ballots. And as they do so, the way that it works and the way that the results are calculated will start to click for them. They'll understand why this would be an improvement to our political discourse, and we'll cement that idea we want people to have, that voting is ranking. And they will also see the benefits that you're going to enjoy as well. Next slide. There's also, so as I mentioned, there's benefits for you as an individual and for your group when you use RCV. We all know this in the political arena, and so many of these benefits are the same. You can simplify the decision-making process. You can avoid multiple rounds of voting. I know my book club, before we settled on using ranked choice voting, we went through an initial sort of primary stage where we all voted on all the books that we had proposed for the next month. And then we'd sort of set an arbitrary cutoff of what were the top books and then vote again. And that multi-stage process not only caused confusion, it also led to some hurt feelings, and it just took longer than it needed to. Now that we rank from the start, that process is much smoother. And because no one feels disgruntled that a book won with only one more vote than them and it didn't have a majority, it's led people to feel happier with the choices that we've made and the books that we're reading. And people, since by definition, a majority of members of our group have bought in to the books that we read each month, people feel more invested in those choices. They feel happier in the books that we've chosen. And because they understand the process, they know how to work with it and to propose books that can actually win majority support. That majoritarian benefit is what is missing in a lot of other voting systems, like first past the post. And if you use a multi-winner form of RCV, which in a book club could mean holding one election every few months to pick your next few selections, you can actually end up with representation of different viewpoints and ideas that maybe weren't winning out beforehand. In political offices, this has so much power for communities and ideologies that don't currently get heard. And the exact same thing holds true in our personal lives as well. All right, so next slide. What sorts of forums are we talking about? I've thrown a bunch of ideas up here of groups that you might be a member of and the decisions they might make. And I want each of you to pause now and think about what's a civic organization that you're a part of? What are some decisions in your workplace that could benefit from an improved process? What's a debate your family had recently? You see lots of people on TikTok who decide their family vacations by just pulling something out of a fishbowl. And a lot of people are unhappy with that. Think about a decision in your life that could benefit from ranked choice voting. And I encourage you to put it in the chat so we can all brainstorm and inspire each other. So some examples, I've talked about a book club. If you're on the board of an organization, you probably vote on a lot of issues there. Maybe your church or your alumni association from school. Even in your workplace, the theme for a potluck, that's a really fun idea. In your workplace, you might talk about what snacks you have in the break room or what time a meeting should be scheduled for. Maybe a leadership selection that you're struggling with right now. Any other ideas to pop in the chat? Choosing names for a project, that's a fun one, actually. But people can get really attached to the name that they suggest. And so I think that's one where the majoritarian benefit would be helpful. Yeah, team building retreat ideas is fun. Leaf Erikson Lodge, you know what? I think we're in the same neighborhood, Kathleen. And yeah, that's a large community center. There's probably lots of decisions you could use RCV for. What movie to choose? That's a classic one. Yeah. And then the Kiwanis Club, David, I know you've already brought RCV to some Kiwanis clubs in the area, and they do really important work funding community groups. Yep, which movie to watch on movie night. Okay, great suggestions. Thanks everyone for putting those in the chat. Hopefully that gets your juices flowing, thinking about all these different community groups that you're a part of and the types of decisions they make. All right, so if we go to the next slide, let's think about some simple planning choices before you run your first RCV election. So you've chosen, let's say, family movie night. You want to use RCV. There's been some fights in the past. People can't agree on a genre or, whatever the issue may be. Once you've identified that decision, I think the easiest way to approach this process is often just offer to make the change and to run the process yourself. A lot of times you'll find in these informal organizations, people just haven't thought about these processes. They've evolved over time. Anytime my book club used to choose our next book, we'd realize, oh, this isn't a perfect process, but we didn't go that extra step and say, how could it be improved? And so people will appreciate if you just put your hand up and say, I have a new idea that we could try this month. And I have a tool, I'll set it up for you. You don't have to do any work, the rest of the members of the group. If you feel a little more resistance than that, then it would help to think in advance about problems with the current system that you've seen in the past. If it's caused some disagreement or hurt feelings, or if you've had choices win out with less than majority support, then raise those up for people so they realize that there are problems that need to be addressed, and maybe a trial run with RCV could help build their confidence that this is actually a method that would address those problems. We also have some resources at the end of this presentation that include explainer videos about the benefits of RCV and data on its benefits. And so that can help demystify the process for people who aren't already familiar. Another idea is that maybe people feel really attached to the particular decision that you've identified. And so starting with something lower stakes, like the break room snacks, I don't know, some people feel really attached to that, but choose something that people don't have such strong feelings about the process or the results, that they can test out the process of using RCV and see the benefits, and they'll connect those dots in their head about what the benefits could be for the bigger decisions that you're facing. Then make sure you actually hold an election, and afterwards ask people how they felt about it. Reflect on what went better this time and find ways to work that in to your regular routine. Part of the educational benefits of voters being familiar with RCV is just going to come from time and repeat examples of how it can work. And on our next slide, you'll see the tool that we recommend. Our board member, David Bangs, who's with us tonight, helped develop this with Shel Kaplan and some others. It's called rcv123.org. And this is a website where you can conduct free ranked choice voting elections. You have a lot of options on how to set up the parameters on that race. One of the most important ones to consider is you can run either a single winner race on this tool or multi-winner. That would be similar to how Portland holds their city council elections now, where they have a proportional ranked choice voting system. And that gives you a lot of flexibility in the types of decisions that you can use this tool for. Maybe you want multiple winners every time you vote, or you're using multiple winners to plan out several months worth of decisions. There's lots of ways to take advantage of that tool. So now Carrie is going to pull up that website and show you how you actually use it to set up your first election. And while she's doing that, I encourage you to put that URL into your browser, and you can follow along as Carrie shows you the process.
Really excited to show you how to use RCV 123. And the first thing I want to show you is when you get to this homepage, you'll have this option to sign in. And you don't have to sign in order to make your ballots, but it's really helpful for later in the process as you're reviewing your results and starting and ending your results and all of the good things like that. So we are just going to sign in real quick. Oh, well, there we go. Okay. All right. So you can see then it takes me to a dashboard. And that's really the fun part about having your accounts. You can go back and look at all of the ranked choice voting elections you've had, but we're not here to look at ranked choice voting ballots I've created. We're here to create one. So the first thing you'll want to do is click set up a ballot in the upper left-hand corner. Immediately you'll start to see that there's some options we can go through, and I'm going to walk you through what I consider the most simple and basic election you can set up, and also make some room for curiosity as you explore it for yourself. So you'll see some options here if you want to collect votes yourself using paper ballots or Google Forms in a classroom. You can submit data from elsewhere, which is very cool. But if you're starting from scratch like we are today, you're going to just choose here between anyone with the link can vote and restrict to votes. Because most of the elections I run for examples are pretty casual, we're just going to do anybody with the link can vote. Today, I am not going to ask voters for their names. I suspect many of you may also not want to keep voting anonymous. And now we get to the ballot details page. Here you have the opportunity to start your election as soon as the link is live or at a specific time. So if you know that you're going to be voting on, say, a Halloween party, you can start your voting on September 15th and close it later on. But for tonight, we're just going to provide it to you all tonight, and the voting will also end when we look at our results together. We typically recommend showing the preliminary results. This is mostly because, or we'd mostly recommend it if you're in a teaching mode. The preliminary results really give you a great visual of how the votes move around, and we are excited. I find it really exciting to be able to see the votes move and how that all happens. So now we get to the fun part. You get to set up your election. I have obviously made a couple, so I'll show you how it goes. So your contest name, that's your election. We're gonna vote today to choose some books for the Fair Vote Washington Book Club. Contest description, this is optional, but you can let folks know that we are selecting a book for Fair Vote staff to read in Q4. Okay, this is going to be a single winner election. You heard Elise mention earlier the possibility of multi-winner elections. If you are running a proportional ranked choice voting campaign, you can select many, many options here, but today we're just going to do one. And because we advocate for a top 5 system here in Washington, I'm going to choose 5 candidates, but again, you can have up to 30. So do with that what you will. And now we enter our candidates. So we have making democracy count. We have the tyranny of the majority. We have reflecting all of us. Democracy vouchers and the promise of fair elections in Seattle. And Give Us the Ballot by Ari Berman. So all I needed to do was type in my choices here to create a ballot link. And now I have my ballot. And this is what I would still call the back end. We have a ballot link to distribute to voters or a QR code, a link to the election results, and that would be mostly for you, but also a QR code for that. So what I'm going to do now is just leave my screen up for a couple minutes, and I invite you to scan the QR code and practice voting in it. I'm also going to drop the link in the chat here so that anybody who doesn't want to go find their cell phone can access it a little more easily. All right, well, let's go ahead and look at the results together now. If you haven't had a chance to vote, you can still vote. It has not ended yet, but we will give this a look. All right, can we all see these results?
We see them.
Excellent, okay. So looks like the tyranny of the majority by Lanny Guinier has won, but it lost to a tiebreaker with Making Democracy Count, so that's pretty exciting. You can see with the different colors at the bottom, the dark purple is the first round, which is fun to look at because if you see through this.
Can you put the slider down to the round 1 by clicking on round 1 on the slider?
I see. Yes. So in round 1, you can see that Making Democracy Count had the most votes, but it still didn't have the 10 votes it needed to win. It's always fun to see this because in a plurality election, in a first past the post election, which is what we use now, Making Democracy Count would have won. But clearly it has only half of the votes needed to win, which is not enough. So once we take out the candidate with the fewest votes, which is give us our ballot, those votes are redistributed to their second choice votes, which were tyranny of the majority. So now we're in a dead heat and with a few more rounds to go. Taking out
Can
democracy
I say
round.
something about tiebreakers?
Yes.
Oh, well, in a political RCV election, our tiebreakers are actually done randomly because there's going to be so many voters that an actual tie would be unlikely. But on RCV 1, 2, 3, we don't break the ties randomly. We actually give the nudge to the person with the overall best rankings. If there was a tie, it's not actually random because one of the candidates might have gotten more next choice votes.
Precisely. And I think we'll be able to see that as we go through these
Mhm.
elections. So we get to the third round and tyranny of the majority has surged ahead, but still not enough votes to win. And so it's going to come down to the next choice between Reflecting All of Us by Rob Ritchie. And again, we see a tiebreaker, but the most votes overall have, as David said, gone to tyranny of the majority. So we have our winner.
And you
And
can actually see on this bar chart that in the previous rounds, because tyranny of the majority was ahead in the last round, it makes sense that it would win the tiebreaker.
Oh, go back to round 3 then. It had been ahead before that last round.
correct.
Yeah.
Awesome. So now we have our winner. So that is, and now we can close voting. You can keep it open, but I'm going to close it for this ballot for now. And we have our winner. So that is
Ooh.
how to use ranked choice voting 1, 2, 3. I do see a couple questions coming in. We're going to save those for in a little bit. But for now, I think I'm going to pass it back over to Elise.
Yes, thanks, Carrie.
Of
And
course.
I will say, with 2 top choices, I think that's a great time to just say the next 2 books should be Tyranny of the Majority and then Making Democracy Count. And like David said, in a political election with hundreds of thousands of voters, you're a lot less likely to get a tie than here with the 17 or so voters that we had. And your group may have this come up if you use RCV 1, 2, 3, but then the tiebreaker is still done between the 2 top vote getting candidates and the 2 candidates that are closest to winning a majority. So you're still more likely to get that majoritarian or close to majoritarian winner. All right, Carrie, yes, thank you. There, you predicted my next question. We will get to those questions, including about tiebreakers, in a minute. We just have a few more slides we want to get through. So we've talked a little bit about what decisions in your life you might be able to make using ranked choice voting and how to use this tool of RCV123.org. Thanks again, David, for making a free, easy to use tool that everyone can take advantage of. We've included up here just a selection of groups that use ranked choice voting in their processes, including a number here in Washington and across the country. So your group is in very good company if you decide to become an RCV using organization. I don't know, I think this is a list of groups that we're definitely happy to be a part of. And actually, one of these organizations, a local giving group, has actually offered a testimonial that you can see on the following slide that provides some more of the qualitative experience and how RCV has improved their processes. Can we go to that next slide, Carrie? All right, so I'll just read this out, this quote from Mary. What changed and became better once our group adopted the use of ranked choice voting in our decision making? Jim and I can't really remember how we initially chose the nonprofit recipients of our donations before we started with RCV. We agree that it is easier for us to choose from among very worthy options when you can rank them rather than pick one and not another. We feel overall more positive, in our case, out of 3 choices, that we are actually voting for two. So for this group's use case, they found that their participants felt better about voting because they like all of the options in front of them. And when you have to choose to vote for one and not two, that felt like a harder decision than when you can effectively vote for two, your top 2 rankings. It gives you an opportunity to shout out the great work that more organizations are doing in your community. So thank you to Mary and to this local giving group. All right, next slide provides some of the resources that we have available, and you can find all of these online. So on fairvotewalla.org, we have some explainer videos if you need to share those with your friends or your group to give them the basics of ranked choice voting. They'll probably want to know what it is before they start using this for their decisions. If you have the kinds of really wonky friends that I know a lot of people in this group are would identify as, they might want even more data about the benefits of RCV. And you can find that on Fair Vote National's website. Fairvote.org has some great explainers to answer just about any question that your friends could lobby at you. RCV123.org has its own fact section and instructions for how to use the website. So if you have any questions about what the features available are, peruse those. And then finally, if you're really stuck, reach out to us. info@fairvotewa.org is an email that you can use to reach our team. And so we are happy to help you out. And also, we are really interested to know when you do start using RCV in your daily life. So if you're part of a group like Anne's Giving Group or like my book club that decides to start using ranked choice voting, then please let us know.